It's no secret that I take issue with the Commonwealth's lack of pre-war luxuries. No reality TV shows, no tech companies, and no restaurants. Quite honestly, it's an outrage that the people of New England have put up with this for so long. There's a city in the middle of the desert that's basically the same as it was before the war. Meanwhile, 200 years after the war, people in Fallout 4 are still living like cavemen. Diamond City and Goodneighbor appear to be major cities with sizable populations, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're the peak of civilization. They could definitely do better, considering the main types of vendors they have are dealing either drugs or arms. Also, food has to be disgusting in Fallout, right? Besides the general nastiness that has to permeate literally everything everywhere due to radiation, the options just aren't that good anyway. When you have to choose between a bloatfly and a mutant hound for your daily protein, it's hard to get excited about eating at all. And that's if you can even find a bloatfly or a mutant hound to hunt. That may sound easy to us, but the average settler is not as capable as me and you. They probably get bloody messed by a raider the second they step out of their settlement. So once again, I'm embarking on a quest to improve the wasteland with something positive, non-violent, and totally unnecessary. To ensure that the good people of the Commonwealth have somewhere fun to go that has non-sickening food, I am going to open a restaurant. I feel like we've developed a pretty good relationship here, so I'm not gonna lie to you. I had no intentions of opening a restaurant when I started making this video. My original plan was to go to Far Harbor to fight a bunch of big, scary sea creatures in hopes of squashing my fear of them. But as I often do when I make these videos, I got a much better and more wholesome idea long after I had already started. But by that point, I was already 20 levels into that save, and I was definitely not willing to redo all that. So meet Pisces, the most ubiquitous Fallout 4 character I think I've ever had. When she's not busy confronting cult leaders and eldritch horrors, you can find her sitting on a cinder block stirring up a pot of whatever meat she got her hooks into that day.
This thing is no joke. Do I have a hook for a hand?
I think Far Harbor is a good location for my restaurant for a couple reasons. First of all, it's right on the ocean, which gives me easy access to fresh seafood and a beautiful view for my customers. There is a similar establishment in the actual town of Far Harbor called The Last Plank, but like every place where you can buy food in the Commonwealth, it's more of a bar than a restaurant. I feel like there isn't real competition there, so I might as well just set up on the island right across from The Last Plank. I bet the people of Far Harbor just love having me as a neighbor. First the synths show up on their island and threaten their entire way of life, now here comes me. Since my goal when I arrived in Far Harbor was just to take out a bunch of sea creatures, that remained the focus for a while. That works out because I can just use all the meat I looted in the restaurant. Right as I was getting off the boat, Captain Avery, who doesn't seem to be the captain of anything but calls herself this anyway, told me that the town was under attack. Great news! I had just arrived on the island and it was already giving me everything I wanted. At least I thought I wanted this. Apparently it's a lot harder to get through a bombardment of gulpers and anglers than it looks. To be fair, I had been so focused on just getting to Far Harbor before this that I hadn't previously considered any sort of build. At this time I was mainly using a hunting rifle I lovingly called Sea Monster Detonator and a harpoon gun. Before you write your comments telling me that I'm an idiot for using those instead of something useful, I did it because it fit the theme, okay? I wanted to defeat at least one of each sea creature from Far Harbor. Looking back, my real idiocy was here, thinking that I would only run into one of each monster.
This is so scary.
I mean, seriously, who was I kidding? I started with the easier enemies, anglers, which now that I think about it look vaguely humanoid. They're kind of bipedal, and I can't really discern what they mutated from. All of the creatures in Fallout are supposed to have mutated into what they are now due to radiation from the bombs, but what was this thing 200 years ago if not a person? A frog? It sort of has frog-like anatomy, but then how do you explain it being called angler and having a similar lore to an anglerfish? You know, anglerfish who live in the ocean, not lakes like Fallout anglers? Because I can only view things through the lens of film and television, I always thought that anglers were based on the gill man from Creature from the Black Lagoon, who is humanoid but also a separate species from humans. But then, I don't know how or when an amphibious offshoot of humanity would evolve within the 200 years between the bombs falling and the events of Fallout 4, so the angler has to have mutated from something unless they existed before the bombs, which is a whole separate can of worms that I'm too afraid to open. I'm concerned about the origins of the angler because this meat is going to be served in my restaurant. I want to know what I'm cooking and be 100% sure that it is not a person. I found a Reddit thread where somebody said they probably just evolved alongside the lureweed, so I'm gonna go ahead and believe that they're just frogs before I drive myself insane. Besides anglers, the other enemy I think of as easier in comparison to the others is the gulper. I probably shouldn't be describing the gulper as easy though. One running headbutt from one of these overgrown salamanders and you're on half a heart, to speak in Minecraft terms.
Oh my god. Wow, they do a lot of damage.
They're fast, they're strong, and worst of all, they're almost never alone. If you see one gulper, there's at least one or two more lurking somewhere you just can't see yet. I pretty much despise gulpers, but their innards do make a consumable with a pretty useful effect. Eating the gulper slurry gives you invisibility for 10 seconds, which if you're hiding from a gulper could be very beneficial. However, I'm such a selfless individual that I saved all of the gulper slurries I could make for the restaurant. I totally didn't forget that you could make something useful out of gulper innards and ignore them the whole run. That would be super embarrassing. Once I was satisfied with the amount of anglers and gulpers that I had slain, it was time to move up to the big leagues. My favorite enemy in all of Fallout 4 is the hermit crab because it's cute and it has such a creative design. Bethesda was cooking when they put that giant crab inside of a bus. Now I'm gonna cook it too. The hermit crab is like a weaker, smaller version of the Mirelurk queen, which is ironically my least favorite enemy. It gives birth to a clutch of little babies who nip at your ankles while you're distracted fighting their mother until they eventually consume you themselves. I really don't like the babies. If I could make hermit crab veal, I would. That said, the first hermit crab I came across was no problem at all. It's almost like it submitted to my harpoons willingly, knowing it would receive the utmost respect in its afterlife vis-a-vis getting cooked in my restaurant and bringing nourishment to the people too meek to face it themselves. And then I met hermit crab number 2.
Oh, I see the bus that it's in. Hermit crab. It's an alpha hermit crab. It's an alpha? Good thing I'm a sigma. That was not very sigma of me. As I was saying, this thing is an alpha. Good thing I'm a sigma. Oh god, I hate when they run at you, man. It's actually scary. Please just land a hit. Please. Okay, I'm a sigma. I can admit when I've made a mistake. I'm not like some alpha.
Because hermit crabs are so rare, I had such a hard time with the second one, and because I respect them so greatly, hermit crab meat will become a delicacy at my restaurant. I can think of no better way to honor the sacrifices made by this adorable freak of nature. The fog crawler is an absolute monster. Typically I use the word monster affectionately, or at least with no connotation at all. But this thing is a monster, like scary monster. They're taller than even the hermit crab, with arms like scythes and a quick, jumpy gait that lets it run up to and away from you at the most inconvenient times. The mere sight of this thing is enough to make me uncomfortable, but you know what's more uncomfortable? Hunger. I can't let my customers miss out on any of these regional specialties, even if it kills me. In keeping with my original plan for this video, I entered combat with the fog crawler not for sustenance, but to conquer my fear of sea monsters. As expected, it put up an insane fight, but I came out on top, also as expected. At this point, you might be saying to yourself, hold on, you just finished hunting down all of the water creatures from Far Harbor. You're done. Why are you gathering up more weapons? And my response to that would be something like, I don't know, I guess I felt like torturing myself by fighting not one, but 2 Mirelurk queens for literally no reason. That's what I would say if that was true. But if you can believe it, the truth is actually more embarrassing than that. When I was still just focused on killing Far Harbor enemies, I wanted to end the video on a quest called the Great Hunt. In this quest, the owner of the town takes you on a journey to a small island containing a mythological leviathan called the Red Death. The quest is easily one of the funniest in the whole Fallout series, so I definitely recommend doing it yourself if you can get it to trigger, that is. In my first attempt, I had no idea that this NPC named Machete Mike from an earlier quest in the line was so important that he had to live, so I spent 2 real-life hours running around the island waiting for this quest to trigger. That obviously never happened, so I had to reload an old save where Machete Mike was still alive, redo all the prerequisite quests, and then be faced with the same exact problem. The quest still wasn't appearing. At this point, I was ready to give up on the whole video and play literally any other video game instead. But like I said earlier, I wasn't gonna lose all of that time I put into the save, so I looked beyond the game for inspiration. I didn't have to look far because to my right was another screen playing Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, a show about saving failing restaurants. In that moment, I was the failing restaurant and I had to be my own Gordon Ramsay to save myself. And what does Gordon Ramsay do? He opens restaurants. Picking the right location for the restaurant was crucial since ocean access was the main reason I had for wanting to set it in Far Harbor. There are 4 settlements to choose from: the National Park Visitors Center, Echo Lake Lumber, Dalton Farm, and Longfellow's Cabin. The first two aren't by the ocean, so they get ruled out automatically. I considered Dalton Farm since it was the place where I valiantly fought that fog crawler, but I ended up going with Longfellow's cabin instead. This island has some interesting landscaping that I wanted to play with, plus I had been using it as my home base in Far Harbor anyway. It also helps that Longfellow had been traveling with me this entire time, so he's just as much a part of this restaurant as I am.
Just real quick, we're gonna get married, and we just got married. Okay, great. This game, look how easily this game lets you get married.
With a location decided, I would have to find a group of reliable employees who would be willing to relocate to Far Harbor. I started this search in downtown Boston at Trinity Tower, which is infested with super mutants.
I'm so concerned with making a good restaurant now. I'm gonna make it, it's gonna be so cute. People are gonna love it. That's what people are concerned with in Fallout, making things cute that people will love. I never do anything that people in Fallout would actually do. Like kill people. Don't look at what I'm doing right now.
After sending those guys to the big FEV vat in the sky, I found a monster so hideous I can barely even bring myself to speak its title. An actor. And the super mutant named Strong is there too. Strong has been inspired by the actor's quoting of Shakespeare to be a nice super mutant, but despite this, he still has a proclivity for violence. Strong is obsessed with the idea of the milk of human kindness, which is just a metaphor for compassion from Macbeth, but Strong thinks this literal milk exists somewhere. I'm not gonna break his heart and tell him the truth, but if he's so interested in beverages, I could always use him as a bartender.
Strong, found what you were looking for, buddy. Hey, Strong, come here. Put that weapon away, you said... Yeah, he took the milk of human kindness and now he's gonna go kill a human.
Next I spoke with Deacon because he has the most impressive resume out of every companion who could work for me. You may or may not have noticed that Deacon has a few doppelgangers hanging around random spots in the Commonwealth. These aren't just NPCs who happen to bear a resemblance. That's actually Deacon stalking you. He can be found disguised as a caravan worker in Bunker Hill, a patron of the Memory Den in Good Neighbor, and even as a guard in Diamond City. With all of that experience doing different things in different places, Deacon is by far the most qualified employee that I have. I realize that bringing him to an island of synths may be a little ironic, but I'm sure he'll be too preoccupied with the restaurant to notice. I stopped by Diamond City to ask Piper to head up to Far Harbor not as an employee, but for promotion. Although some people think her articles are nothing but the ramblings of an insane person, Piper's newspaper is the only source of journalism in the Commonwealth that I can truly influence. I mean, the radio would be a better place to advertise, but what am I gonna do, yank the microphone out of Travis's probably shaky hands? Down at the third rail in Good Neighbor, I paid McCready 250 caps to move to Far Harbor and become a waiter. I did attempt to pay him 200 caps, the Fallout 4 equivalent of minimum wage, but he wasn't having it, which is understandable. I also got Kate to come work at the restaurant too, since I ran into her while she was in the middle of getting fired by her old boss. With ingredients sourced and employees hired, it was finally time to build the restaurant. I always underestimate how long settlement building is going to take in Fallout 4. I feel like the majority of the hours I have in this game have to be from just repositioning the same chair over and over again until it's straight, which it never truly is. My vision was a simple structure that would support both interior and exterior seating, with the outside having a nice view of the ocean and whatever other cool stuff I could find on the island of Longfellow's cabin. Usually when I make a custom building, it comes out looking like a big box, which is kind of a hallmark of poor building skills in any video game, now that I think about it. I picked the barn building materials to work around this. This set comes with some really fun roof pieces that give the building more visual interest and shape than just a cube. I don't think it looks super exciting or anything, but it could be worse. It could be just a giant wooden box. For the exterior seating area, I wanted something small that wouldn't cover up the island's natural beauty. That's the whole reason you'd sit out there, to admire the island's natural beauty. So, I attached a dock to the back of the building, leading up to this wrecked ship just outside the bounds of the settlement. Once I had finished the basic structure, it dawned on me that I was missing some really vital things in my building menu. Namely, I hadn't collected the Picket Fences magazines to give myself more furniture options, some of which the build relied upon. I went back to the Commonwealth for a bit to grab those, then I also grabbed the local leader perk so I could build workstations and establish supply lines. Oh yeah, I forgot to make a supply line from where all my junk was stored at Sanctuary Hills to Longfellow's cabin. I have no idea how I had enough materials to build that whole structure before this, but I digress.
I'm finally ready to take everybody on the tour, but it's kind of a foggy, gross day, so I don't want to give the tour today. Let me go to sleep so I can make sure that the tour is like nice and sunny for everybody. So as you can see, the town of, well, you can't really see it that well, but the town of Far Harbor is right over there. And I'm on Longfellow's Island right now. So you're walking up on Longfellow's Island, you're like, what's this building? That doesn't look like its cabin. You come under here, and you are transported to a new area. I called our restaurant the dock because the outside part is my favorite part, that little dock area, so let's go up and go inside. So over here is like a host stand type beat. I wasn't really sure what to do with this area, so I just filled it in with a bunch of these crates and barrels and lobster traps from the Far Harbor building stuff because I think they're cute and in theme. I like this jukebox, but let me show you what's wrong with it. It only plays classical music, which I guess is fun, but it's not really the vibe of this establishment, is it? I don't know if you can hear it, but that's classical music coming out of my jukebox. Very fancy stuff here at the dock. So over here we have the dining area. This is like the main dining room. There are a lot of different seating options. As you can see, all of the chairs are like alternating colors, which I thought is kind of fun and a little bit overstimulating, but it's kind of overstimulating in general in here with all the buoys on the wall. So who really cares? Over here in the back is the bar where Strong will be bartending. I think this is nice. I like this espresso machine. All the alcohol is actually in the kitchen, which we can go check out now, if I don't get stuck on this chair. So over here, employees only, this is the kitchen. We have some of the meats that we collected during the course of the run. And then this is where we make all the food. And then this is all the drinks, obviously. And then going out here, outside, this is how you get to the best part of the restaurant, the actual dock. There's one single Nuka Quantum. I'm gonna take it, I want that. And then this is the dock. I really like this, it's pretty simple, but I like that you can sit by this cool boat. I like that you can sit with the ocean, you can still see the building, you can still see Longfellow's cabin and all the people. But you're kind of detached from the rest of the world. I like that.
Now that I had a restaurant built and people ready to work in it, the only thing left to do was to design the menu. Obviously, everything that we killed earlier is on there. Poached angler, gulper slurry, fried fog crawler, grilled hermit crab, and especially Mirelurk Queen steak. I cooked all of that, and then the many people I had been secretly sending to Longfellow's cabin off screen were finally invited into the restaurant. If I could make these people pay me caps, I would, but it's actually okay that they don't. The only payment I really need is the satisfaction of knowing that I have yet again provided Wastelanders with an alternative to the uncivilized ways they're used to, an upgrade to the eating experience they normally have. All jokes and playing aside, I do think it's kinda crazy that Fallout 4 doesn't have many NPCs running restaurants or similar establishments. Fallout 4 is the latest game in the Fallout timeline, more than 200 years after the bombs that destroyed pre-war civilization, so you'd think that was an adequate amount of time to build up a new civilization post-war. Fallout New Vegas takes place 6 years before Fallout 4, yet the Mojave Wasteland is much more developed than the Commonwealth. There are numerous functional towns with a variety of businesses that make the area feel much more realistic in terms of development. Fallout 2 is an even better example of a developed post-apocalyptic world, with diverse cities like Reno, Vault City, and Shady Sands boasting vendors and locations that are specialized to their specific communities. I know Fallout 4 uses the excuse that the Institute has been undoing the Commonwealth's attempts at creating a central government to explain this away, but would they have really been interested in the surface for that long and be successful every time? I just feel like the East Coast games do a poor job of world building when it comes to post-war society, and the lack of fun, non-abandoned places to visit like restaurants and theaters, or even just a mechanic who repairs your worn-down items is super indicative of that. It was recently rumored that Fallout 5 was greenlit, but I'm not getting too excited just yet because I feel like people have been talking about Fallout 5 since Fallout 4 came out. No matter what the setting of the next game is, I just hope it's in a time and place that has an immersive in-universe society that people expect from an RPG. And if not, at least I can franchise my restaurant to the next game.